Hello and welcome to Weaving Dreams into Reality. This podcast is a passionate exploration of life's possibilities through a spiritual lens. I'm your host, Anya Sagan, filmmaker, best-selling author, non-binary shaman, and person with lived experience of mental illness. Join me here each week for insights, inspirations, and interviews with people sharing real-life stories of bringing their dreams to life and how they did it. And be sure to leave your comments, inspirations, and questions, and we may feature them on an upcoming episode. Hi, and welcome to Weaving Dreams into Reality. I'm your host, Anya Sagan. And today I have this very special guest, Mr. Stephan Dyer. He's an award-winning bilingual comedian, a keynote speaker, and corporate leadership and communication trainer. And his inspiring story starts with his leaving his executive position in the banking world in 2017 to pursue his professional career in stand-up comedy. He successfully co-founded Malpensando, a bilingual comedy school in Canada, and the Rethink Group, its corporate training company, which has grown to include clients in 16 countries, including Canada, Switzerland, England, Singapore, Malaysia, Mexico, and the United States. As a comedian, Stephan has performed in 8 countries and appeared on Comedy Central, The Second City, and some of the world's largest comedy festivals. In February 2021, Stephan was featured on the cover of Toastmaster magazine, the largest public speaking magazine in the world, distributed to over 364,000 members across 143 countries. Welcome, Stephan.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, it's
How are you
honest.
doing today?
Pardon me. I'm really just as a side note. I just graduated from the first stage of Stephan's course from Malpensando. Last night we did our presentation, and I am still aglow from the adrenaline and the bliss of having presented a stand-up comedy routine, my very first.
Yeah, no, it makes me tremendously proud. You killed it, made everybody laugh. You owned it. You were authentic. You doubled down on who you are, on being yourself. And I mean, the 5 of you killed it. It was so great to see because, as you know, and you mentioned it briefly, it's like a rite of passage where the person who came to that first session is not the one who left last night. Mm-hmm. So it again, and it's hard to understand because all of you made everybody laugh. But even if you didn't make everybody laugh, which wasn't the case, obviously, but it's not about the laughs. Mm. It's about who you become in the process. It's about getting up there and taking a chance on yourself, on who you are, on living your true authentic self. And not everybody can do it. You know, it's not for everybody. It takes a lot of courage. And I just want to congratulate you again because it's a big step. And I hope that, and I know that you will, on December 31st, you're going to look back at this year and you're going to be like, what did I accomplish? And this will for sure come to mind. Mm-hmm. I guarantee you.
It felt incredible. It felt empowering. There were moments when I really felt a confidence I have never experienced before come out of me, and a real connection with the audience. And thank you so much for facilitating that. You and Juan did such a wonderful job guiding us through it compassionately and also pushing us to beyond our limits in a way that was very supportive, but also very liberating as well, and challenging in a good way.
It's not an easy course. It's not it does require you to be authentic and to have a lot of courage. So again, kudos.
Thank you. Speaking of courage, I know my listeners will be very, very inspired by your story because it took a heck of a lot of courage for a person to do what you did in your with the job that you were in, I sort of was mentioning it briefly in the intro, how you went from a corporate job that was, a really quote unquote successful, like, had all the hallmarks of it. And you did something from your heart. You followed your dream, like you followed your heart on something that was significant, like a leap of faith.
Yes, it takes a lot of courage. I think sometimes you need to jump. Sometimes you need to be pushed. Like a lot of the biggest decisions of everybody's lives are big changes. Sometimes you're pushed, sometimes you jump. I jumped, and I was kind of pushed by my business partner, Juan. We were both senior managers at Scotiabank. He was a senior manager in marketing and brand. I was a senior manager in wealth management. And we started doing stand-up comedy in 2014 as a hobby. By 2017, Juan used to be like, dude, we should quit our jobs. We should quit. We knew each other before the bank. I actually helped him get his first interview. And I'm like, how are we going to quit? Like, this would be a disservice to our parents who have sacrificed so much for us to be able to be here in Canada, to get educated in Canada, we're living the dream job. We're working downtown, Scotia Plaza, downtown condo, suit and tie life, partying, traveling, really good paychecks. And there was just something that told me, first of all, I thought that when I had money, I would be happy. And that wasn't the case. Now, it's not that the job was extremely stressful, but at times it was, especially towards the end. Second of all, I'm not blaming the bank, because even after I quit, you still have to be responsible for your well-being and your mental health. But I did realize that there was a time where I had the most money when I was at the bank, and I was most miserable because I was very stressed. Even when I went on vacation, I wasn't able to disconnect. And I just felt like I was wasting my talent, and the future looked too predictable to me. I just knew that if I stayed, I would be in 3 years or 5 years a director. And in 7 years or in 10 years, I would be a vice president. And every single day, I would regret it, because I would have been like, what if I would have bet on myself, What if I wouldn't have been scared to jump? Fortunately, I had my best friend and business partner to jump together, But the other thing that was hard for me was that my dad had paid for my education, and my family was incredibly proud of me that I was one of the youngest senior managers in company history. So it took a while to disconnect my self-worth from status, my self-worth from my title, my self-worth from my earnings, and understand that I am more than a banker. I am more than, but my identity had become that. So I just saw like one shot at doing what I love for the rest of my life, and I took it. I was 29, wasn't married, didn't have a mortgage, didn't have kids. I mean, I was with my girlfriend, now wife, and I asked her if she would support me in my decisions. She said yes. I also had a lot of savings, so I used that to serve. To at least the way I saw it is, I bought myself a sabbatical year to be able to try this out. And I left the doors wide open at the bank. In case this didn't work out, I would go back. It's been 5.5 years, and I'm happy that I haven't been back.
Wow. That's amazing. You've had that amazing success, and it must have been, even though you gave yourself the safety net and everything like that, with all that was riding on it, with the parents and everything like that, and how you got there and all of that, I can see where this must have been a precipitous kind of change, even with all of the safety things and stuff like that in place. What was going through your thoughts when you went to tell your employer that you were actually leaving?
It was hard, but Sarah is an amazing person. She was the vice president. I mean, I didn't tell my boss. I told Sarah first. Like, my boss was a director, and I told Sarah, the VP, first. Sarah Gordon, incredible person, amazing lady. And I went in, and it was, well, that was the easiest part, because first it was telling myself that I was going to quit. And I decided that 7 months before I quit.
Huh.
So it's not like I woke up one day. No, I planned ahead. I moved to a smaller place. I stopped spending. I saved a lot more money. I stopped going out. I stopped eating at restaurants. I stopped drinking at bars. I stopped Ubering. I stopped traveling because I wanted to prepare. I started meditating because I wanted to prepare for potential anxiety. So first I had to tell myself, that was the hardest part. Second, I had to tell my girlfriend, now wife. Then I had to tell my business partner, let's do this. But not tomorrow. I said, it's like September right now. I'm going to do it in April, because April 4th is the day that I have enough days to apply for my citizenship. So I applied April 4th. I quit April 5th. And April 6th, I went on a 3-week tour through Miami, Costa Rica, and Colombia with Juan, with my business partner. So then I was actually, when I decided that, I communicated that to my family. And then I actually in January, a month before I told my boss, I was approached by another person in another department, which was my dream department that I wanted to go for my entire career. And I was kind of offered this position in many ways. I was told to interview, and I had already interviewed, but I didn't get it. And I was told to interview again, and it was like, pretty much this time I was going to get it. And the guy's like, I want you to come interview, et cetera, et cetera. And I was like, I can't, because I'm leaving. So, and the guy was like, what? Where are you going? To the competition? To another bank? I'm like, no, I'm doing comedy. He's like, is this one of your jokes? So when I turned that down, I mean, that guy was super happy for me. He was like rooting for me. But when I turned that down, it was pretty evident that was the door, the important door, because that was the next step for me at the bank. It was like a really important department. So when I said no to that in January, then just going to my VP in February was a lot easier, because she was very nice. They were rooting for me. They were super happy for me. And then my director came into the office, and she thought that it was something worse. Like, maybe she thought that I had like told my VP about her or something. And she was like, what's going on? What's going on? And then I just told them, and they were happy. I mean, they were surprised, definitely, because they didn't see it coming. I mean, they knew about my shows because some people had come to my shows, but they weren't expecting that. That's for sure. So they were supportive, but the hardest part had already passed.
It sounds like it was really well thought out. Like, you actually planned this stuff, and it wasn't like some people do this crazy, like they'll just like throw everything to the wind and do something. So you don't have to necessarily.
I'm not that guy. I wouldn't even advise people to quit their job if it does. You can do it as a hobby for the first years, like I did. In fact, I did it as a hobby for 3 years, since 2014. You could actually argue that I did it as a hobby since 2010, when I started writing jokes or observations on Twitter. So you could have maybe have said that I had been doing this for 7 years. 7 years in the making, in many ways.
So, because a lot of people have this perception that you have to do this big leap of faith. It's almost like a demonstration to the universe, the divine, whatever you want to call it, that I'm ready for this and this big grandiose gesture. You don't have to do that without a safety net. You can do it methodically and over time, gradually, where in incrementally rather than this like terrifying, kind of thing.
I agree. It's all context, because sometimes jumping and telling everybody is the ultimate accountability, because now you have to do it if you tell everybody. The problem about a lot of people is if they do it gradually, then they'll never jump. Like I jumped. But a lot of people will be like, well, I'll do it as a hobby, and maybe they just never jump. So it's all about context. You got to execute. And if you're scared, that's okay too. It's not for everybody. But don't look back. I just couldn't bear the fact, the possibility of me looking back and being like, what if I had quit, So I did.
Thank you so much for all that authenticity and the depth of your response. I mean, it speaks of your character, how deeply you're willing to share this kind of stuff. That, like, some people would want to make themselves look so perfect and whatever. Like the way that you share it, I really like people can relate to that kind of thing. Because like some people were like, I really want to do this, and then there's also the possibility that well, I'm just going to do this as a hobby, and then that sort of, it's like you've taken a step, but it's like that's where you flatline. You just continue on with that. And for some people, that's okay. But if you really want to live your dreams and stuff like that, you had that commitment, obviously. And
I'm very committed. Hey, there's nothing wrong with doing it as a hobby. And it's hard to do this when you have to do this. It's easier. I used to write more comedy when I was at the bank, just because it was an escape. Now I'm very productive, and I've mastered how to navigate my day now. But in the first years, I was drowning in administrative stuff with our comedy school and all these things that writing comedy just took a back seat, because writing comedy doesn't make me money, but selling courses and selling workshops does. So when you have a corporate job, it gives you the peace of mind to just be creative, because you're not worried about eating. You're not worried about, am I going to have enough money to eat? You have enough money, so you can just worry about being creative. It's very hard. It's inefficient to be stressed. It's inefficient to be worried all the time. So when you got that security with the corporate job, it's easier to be creative. So again, it's not for everybody. I love the uncertainty. I love it. I've lived in different countries. I've had to be by myself in many, many years. I went to a boarding school when I was 15. I've lived in 5 different countries. So I love it. I love to be the pilot of the bus, but maybe it's not for everybody. And even if it is for you and you got 3 kids and a mortgage to pay, maybe totally understandable if you can't do it,
Or even or possibly what you did incrementally or gradually.
Yeah. Incrementally works.
Yeah. I had a few questions I sort of wrote out for you just as sort of conversation starters and things like that. And one of them was, can you please tell our listeners, after all the fear and uncertainty, what did it feel like when your business first started to become successfully viable?
That was a year ago when we finally started making the same amount of money that we used to make at the bank. So it's not like we ate shit for 4 years, but it was hard. It was definitely hard because our incomes went down like 90% the first year, So you have to be prepared. Even if you're prepared, you're not ready. Because you're never ready for what life's, and I love that. And I love the uncertainty. I love not knowing how much I'm going to make this month. I love going hunting and getting corporate clients and getting shows, and Juan does as well. And that's another thing. Like, a lot of people worry about product market fit, but product market founder fit is the real combo. Sometimes companies have a good product and they have a market to sell the product, but the founders don't get along. And then the company doesn't work and it goes broke, or it just goes sideways because they can't agree on anything. I was very lucky to find a business partner that we're best friends and we're business partners, and we got very, very similar core values. So it's worked out. But I'm just happy that I was able to execute not based on fear, but based on possibility.
Fantastic. What advice, if because a lot of the listeners are people who are at the point of they want to do something, they want to start making change in their lives, but they're scared or whatever. What advice would you give people who know they want to make big changes in their lives, but they're being held back by their fears?
A million, but I'll give you 3.
Okay.
First, start exercising or doing cardio. Running will make you tougher. Weightlifting will make you tougher. And you're just going to remove the bullshit from your life and the excuses. Second of all, escape competition through authenticity, which means that don't copy others, don't be fake, be yourself. And nobody can be better than you. But you got to find out what makes you special and unique. So let's say that there's 10,000 skills in the world, but being the best at one skill is too hard of a problem. But if you're amazing at 3 of them, not the best in the world, but amazing at 3 of them, that unique combination of you being really, really, really good at 3 of them out of 10,000 makes you the best in the world at that 3 skill set combination. So now that makes you unique. For example, Joe Rogan is a martial artist, so he's the UFC commentator. He's a podcaster, one of the best podcasters in the world. And he's also a stand-up comedian. Nobody can be Joe Rogan. Only if Joe Rogan died, nobody can replace him. Just because like Joe Rogan is Joe Rogan. Oprah, nobody can replace Oprah. Jared Leto, he is a musician. He is an actor. He's a director. That makes him unique by trait. So find the things that make you unique and triple down on them. Now, this doesn't mean it's going to be easy. There's still going to be hurdles on the way because you got to have the courage to be yourself. So I used to try to not be like doing like I didn't want to do stand-up in Spanish at the beginning but now that's what makes me unique. I do a lot of stand-up in Spanish in Canada. Me and Juan are probably the only ones in Canada that do this for a living in Spanish. Obviously, we do stuff in English, but I also love vulnerability. I love communication. I love productivity. I love sports. I love stand-up comedy. So one of the most viral videos I've ever done is about soccer and comedy. Or my other video that just went very, very hugely viral 2-3 weeks ago is about being the husband of a Venezuelan girl. So that makes me unique. There's not a lot of husbands of Venezuelan girls who aren't Venezuelan, who are stand-up comedians, who talk about this on stage. So what makes people unique and triple down on that. And the third one, and which is the most important one, work on yourself. Work on yourself. Self-awareness is the biggest gift that you can give yourself. So go take a landmark course, the Landmark Forum. Go read self-help books. Go do exercise, meditate, read. The miracle is not going to happen. Nobody's coming for you. Nobody's going to save you. Just do the work and know yourself. Work on yourself and great things will happen. I mean, I've gone to extremes of self-awareness to get to know myself. A lot of self-development, a lot of courses, and that has taken me to where I am now, and I will continue to get to incredible places because of this desire to get better every day.
Thank you so much. That was so inspiring, and I echo everything that you said there. You are an incredibly talented, incredibly inspiring person, and thank you for sharing that story with us, because you are living proof that when you follow your dreams and you are persistent at it, even if you've had setbacks or whatever, you can live that dream. And you were saying, well, you were making now more, or whatever it is that you actually made in the bank, doing the things that you love. I mean, how cool is that? Yeah,
it's amazing. It's amazing. Now, spoiler alert, you'll still find things to complain about. So that's why the quitting is not going to save you. Like, I thought that when I quit the bank and I did comedy, I was going to be happy, but no, that happiness will be there for like 72 hours. And you're like, oh, fuck. I still got to go and be responsible for my well-being and my mental health and my happiness and my fitness and my marriage and my kids and my kid and everything. So you just have to have extreme. What's the book of Jocko Willink, the Navy SEAL? Extreme ownership. That's the word about everything that you do. So it feels great. Trust me. Mm-hmm. My brother was telling me, no, I've been so stressed, like blah, blah, blah. What was that? And when I was like, I just don't have stress. I've created a life. I want my life to be effortless, where I only do the things that I love doing. That doesn't mean that there's not going to be setbacks, but and as a result that I'm good at, because if I love to do them, then I'll do them more and I'll get better at them. But I don't want to go to this grocery store and like spend 3 hours there, because it gets me in a bad mood. I'll gladly pay the $10 so that Walmart or whatever can bring it to my doorstep. I don't want to spend time on that. I want to spend time with my son. I want to spend time running. I want to spend time on stage. I want to spend time having a beer with my friends. I want to spend time reading. I want to go take a nap. So the sooner you discover who you are, then you can double down on the things that you're great at, or that you have a better chance at being great at, which means that by definition, assuming there's a product market fit, you'll make more money off of, because you're better than the rest. Mm-hmm. And then you can just dedicate yourself to that. That's amazing. Thank you for that. There was something I was going to say, and I completely blanked on it. My apologies for that. We're getting a little bit closer to the end of the time. I think you gave me a 10-minute warning. How can people, because your course is fantastic. I have nothing but good things to say about it. It changed my life in a way that I was not expecting to, especially like I'm 56 right now. And, you think, well, I've done self-development and stuff like that. There's something in standing up in front of a group of people, an audience, and actually doing the routine that you've prepared for, that's so empowering and rewarding. I would highly recommend this to anybody, not just for public speaking, just for personal development. Yes. Fears and things. I mean, there is a lot of personal development within the course, as you already know. Mm-hmm. So how can people, if they're interested in getting in touch with you or working with you, how can they contact you? Where would they get in touch with you? Well, they can add me on LinkedIn or Instagram at Stephan Dyer. And the name Stephan Dyer is spelled the way that you'll see it on this episode. So just add me there. Mm-hmm. So LinkedIn. You guys have a website as well, right? Yeah, Malpensando.com, which is spelled Mal, M-A-L, P-E-N, pen, San, S-A-N-D-O, malpensando.com. Perfect. And just as to sort of finish off, what does Malpensando mean again? I know you mentioned it on stage. I would just love it. It means like naughty thinking, like naughty thinking. It's like more like in Spanish, all the countries in Latin America, with a few exceptions, speak Spanish, but they have their own accents, and each country, you could have the same word, but that same word means a different thing depending on the country. So chaqueta in Colombia means jacket, but chaqueta in Mexico means masturbation.
What? Wow.
So there you go. That's Malpensando.
Okay.
And it's like the double entendre kind of thing.
Watching you last night, you were so funny, both you and Juan. Like, you guys are so, like, you can tell you do what you love. It radiates, and you are so damn funny.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being on this episode. I know that the listeners are going to really, really enjoy this. Your story is extremely inspiring, and thank you for all of the wonderful words of wisdom and advice that you've given. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you so much, Anya. A big hug to all the listeners, and I hope to see you soon. Ciao, ciao.
So, we've come to the end of this week's episode. Thank you so much for listening. Just before you go, I would like to say something that I wish from my heart for you. Dearest listener, may you be blessed with all the divine holds in its unconditionally loving heart for you. May it all come true so far beyond anything you could ever dream or imagine, in truly miraculous ways.